Hey, this is the handicapped hero, Gregory Iron, and you are listening to This Is Awesome Wrestling Show.
Produced by the Cleveland Sound Radio Network. Here is the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show, hosted by Glenn Moore and Steve Guy.
Welcome to this week's episode of This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. I'm Glenn Moore, joined here by Steve Guy. Jam-packed week of shows, jam-packed week of interviews, jam-packed month of interviews. And we want to give you part one of our two-part interview with Gregory Iron here in Cleveland, AIW Intense Champion. Great half an hour part one with him. That will be coming up momentarily. And then next week, you're going to have to come back and listen to part two for another half an hour. So great conversation with the champ here at the CLE Sound Studio. And like I said, he is just one of many wrestlers here in Cleveland, that very, very talented guy. And we talk about CM Punk. We talk about his near-death experience, having the title for AIW, Johnny Gargano. Gee, Steve, is there anything else we didn't talk about with the guy?
Not really. I shouldn't say that because I feel like there's still more that we could cover with Greg Iron.
And yes, we did call Scott Steiner with Gregory Iron.
You
and
bet
yes,
we did.
He did leave a voicemail. And is it part one? Is it part two?
I don't know.
You're going to have to listen to the two-part interview with Gregory Iron. If you are just tuning in and you haven't listened to our interview with Blue Pants or Tessa Blanchard, go back in iTunes, subscribe, and listen to our previous interviews. Got Kevin Owens, we have Seth Rollins, we have Jerry the King Lawler, EC3, Johnny Gargano, The Miz, Heath Slater, Lillian Garcia,
Mark Henry.
I mean, the list goes on with our guests. So if you're a first-time listener, make sure to head over there and give it a listen, give us a subscribe, and listen to us. And also on Android, the podcast store, Stitcher, anywhere you can listen to the podcast, we are there for your listening pleasure. All right, Steve, so before we get to Greg, Raw continues to dip in the ratings. Hell in a Cell coming up, Brock versus Taker. Coming up here, Hell in a Cell, end of the month. You have Seth Rollins versus Kane, Demon Kane, for the title. You have a lot of other matches going on, but are you excited for Hell in a Cell, even though you have Brock headlining? I mean, are you still entertained when you watch Raw? I think the only thing entertaining about Raw has been the New Day.
Yeah, well, I wholeheartedly agree and
Only
love
thing.
the new day. Yeah, I don't know if I have been that entertained with Raw.
I was watching Raw on Monday, and I know you watch it on Hulu and you catch it,
Oh, I've got cable right now.
Oh!
I've had it for a couple months.
So I'm watching it live, and I'm like, oh, main event should be coming up soon, right? Like, I feel like it's dragging, or feel like it's been kind of like, a lot has gone on, happened.
Yeah.
It's been an hour. I'm like, I got 2 more hours of this stuff to go through until the show ends. So I it's been very hard to watch, and I think it's the amount of weeks they have between pay-per-views. It's just a lot. It's just a lot of fill-in time. But I do enjoy New Day, and I'm glad they're getting more of a spotlight against top guys. You saw them take on Cena.
Yeah.
They saw them kind of be involved with Rollins a little bit. And when the mic isn't even on these guys, and when they're even started part of the event, they're rocking out to Seth Rollins' music, and they're showing him rocking out, like, dude. And they're like, okay, you have heels and faces for this lumberjack match. The guys are just standing there. The New Day, who are heels, are cheering for the heel, like pointing out, like, yeah,
only
you're the man.
one, yeah.
Like, that's what other guys should do. New Day is just crushing it, and
They at least had the
only thing.
backstory, though, too, of teaming up with Seth and trying to show Seth how they're his fans.
Yeah.
The only other thing I was entertained with this past week was just the match itself. I still enjoyed Ziggler and Cena just as a match. But, yeah, otherwise, I mean, we touched on Rusev and Lana being engaged.
Yes.
And at least they gave that a nice end. Are you happy about that? I'm very excited that we've ended that nonsense.
I am very excited. And for people that I interact with on Twitter and whatnot, that listen to the show, especially on Facebook with some closed wrestling groups that I'm a part of, is that, TMZ, they just, why would TMZ report that? Excuse me.
That's what they do.
Well, no. WWE tells them to report that stuff.
Oh.
There's a partnership between these two. TMZ is, you want to say what it went with TMZ. They get hits. They get eyes towards their website and news. And you have two wrestlers getting engaged to each other. They're going to leak that out. Of course, we talked about it before. Lana and Rusev are in a real relationship together. They live together, have a house together. But it's not, TMZ didn't break anything. It was WWE telling them to report it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they did because it ends it. Done. Nada. Summer Rae can move on to something else. Lana and Rusev can get together. That'd be, hey, I am all for Crush Lana. I am all for that heel lady to come back.
Oh yeah, she was the best.
Oh.
I'm also all for if Summer Rae wants to move on and to Cleveland. I am looking tomorrow at a different apartment, a little bit larger. Certainly, I mean we could probably share it. It's fine. No?
I'm not gonna bite, probably.
You don't think so?
No, you're not Gary Barnage type.
At Danielle,
you're not catching touchdown passes with your ass, buddy.
Man, what a catch! Shout out to Gary Barnage.
You know what?
Former guest on this radio on this podcast show.
Anything or anybody that touches this show,
it turns into gold.
New Day took a photo with me at WrestleMania. Since WrestleMania, they've been the top thing to watch on Raw. Gary Barnage comes on the show in April before training camp. The dude is top 10 tight ends in the NFL.
Kevin Owens does an interview with us at NXT in Cleveland, says, I want to have a match with John Cena, has a match with John Cena, becomes a U.S. champion, and then Intercontinental champion.
People, if you don't know about the This Is Awesome Wrestling show.
Sasha Banks becomes NXT champion and then moves on.
It's amazing how, there have been casualties, Steve Guy.
Heath Slater.
Mark Henry.
Mark Henry.
But that's really it. No one else?
Not really.
I mean,
Johnny Gargano goes to NXT.
Come on, people. You want to be on the guest on the show? You got to sponsor us if you're a wrestler.
Yeah. Hey, Daniel Bryan, maybe you'd make a comeback if you would have gotten on our show.
Let's talk about that.
And not turned us down.
Let's talk about Daniel Bryan. Okay, so
maybe I don't want to say maybe your health would take an upside. That's mean. Too far.
So I reached out to people for interviews and reached out to the book publisher, not WBE, the publisher, about getting Johnny Gargano on the show. They're like
Daniel Bryan.
I'm sorry, Daniel Bryan. Well, Gargano would never say no to us.
That's right.
So
just wouldn't respond
to you
because he's weird.
Daniel Bryan, the publisher, goes, yes, we'll put you on the media schedule. End of the month. You want a book? Next day, I got a book. I'm like, this is great. I follow up. I'm like, hey, we still good for the interview for end of the month? Yeah. Hey, do you want some books to give away to your listeners? Boom. We get a book to give away to our listener. Who won it? Chris in Toronto.
Yeah, up in Canada.
I had to send it to Toronto. Get a book to give away to our listeners. They go with Daniel Bryan interview. I don't hear back. I'm emailing this lady. No response. She gets back to me and says, "Oh, we didn't get Daniel that day. Sorry. Next time he does media rounds, we'll pencil you in." So no Daniel Bryan for the show. I know we pumped it out, we pimped it out, but we did give away books, people.
Do we blame Daniel or the publisher?
Publisher.
Okay.
Definitely the publisher.
You don't think he's upset because we bashed Frank the Clown?
I don't think so.
All right, good.
I don't think so. I think I think it's just a matter of timing. I get that, but geez, it would be nice to have Daniel Bryan on the show.
Would have been. He could have gone on to amazing things.
He would. That's bad luck. He did come on the show when we were supposed to.
Well, he's also not a casualty, but yeah.
He's a casualty.
Well, he's not a casualty because he didn't come on the show.
He's
not a casualty of our show.
It's This Is Awesome Wrestling Show jinx, or it's going to be good for you. So if you want to come on the show, look at John Thorne.
It's almost hashtag get John Thorne famous.
John Thorne.
He's almost there.
John Thorne is on Reddit for breaking the news, kind of, about the Sami Zayn going to Evolve. He didn't come out and say it, but his tweet was mentioned with saying, because he's like, before pro wrestling dies, it's inside joke, but And then someone on Reddit says John Thorne. I don't know this John Thorne guy, but he's a whiny guy. So hey, John Thorne's getting Reddit famous. It works, people. Come on the show. Sponsor us. Give us your money.
Yeah, Chipotle. Feel free to sponsor us if you'd like. This is a great time. At Chipotle Tweets.
Yeah.
If you'd like to sponsor us, you can reach out at the Steve Guy, marketing director here for at TIA Wrestling.
And you're not going to get any money.
Sorry.
All right. Dude, I'm excited for Hell in the Cell because I'm going to be there. But other than that, Kane, the storyline got a little ridiculous. Okay. Are you telling me, Steve, that the owner of the WWE, not the owner, but the guy, the authority, aren't on Twitter checking what's going on? Their plane doesn't have Wi-Fi?
That's what we tweeted out.
What the heck is going on? This is just ridiculous.
If they can make a phone call, they can check Twitter.
They can see what's going on.
I did enjoy the little bit of who's on first miniature bit that Triple H did with Kane over the phone. Who's Seth Rollins facing? Triple H, it's me. Yeah, no, I know it's you, Kane, but who's Seth Rollins facing?
It was so
You're
bad.
breaking up.
It was so bad.
I just enjoyed
so
those
wrong.
are just cheesy minor victories
and
that I like.
When it happened, when Demon Kane, you know it was going to happen.
Yeah.
It's
You
not a
did.
surprise. Like, oh! And Seth Rollins trying to do his best. Like, come on. This is just ridiculous.
It
So,
wasn't very good.
yeah, it wasn't very good. So, Raw, Hell in the Cell better do something well. I mean, there's talks about having The Rock come for Survivor Series and wrestle at Survivor Series. Him being there at Hell in the Cell to pump up the ratings.
What would it be at Survivor Series for?
I don't know. Team Rock versus Team Authority?
Oh, I was thinking team up with his cousin and Ambrose, take on the Wyatts.
No. Dean Ambrose is beneath The Rock. The Rock is not going to team with Dean Ambrose.
And Roman Reigns.
That's not going to happen. Definitely not going to happen.
All in the family.
No, definitely. Rock is going to come back for Triple H or to be part of like some Survivor Series stuff. I mean, if he comes back. But, dude, what is the prescription? I got a fever. A WWE fever. What is the prescription I need to get the ratings back up and go? Is it The Rock?
Cowbell.
More cowbell would work? But seriously.
Cowbell match.
Dusty Road specialty.
Yeah.
But seriously,
To get the ratings back up?
What are
I
you
don't
gonna
know.
do?
Better writing, better stories. I still think
Vinnie Mac coming back on the screen?
Shane Mack back on the screen.
I don't think that's happening.
I still think that you need to have that competition. I think it just comes down to separate the shows. Separate the shows. SmackDown, Raw, two totally different entities. The Intercontinental title could be the main belt for one. The U.S. title could be the main belt for the other. And then you still have the championship title that kind of floats for whoever. Pit them against each other. Fuel the creativity of the superstars. Fuel the creativity of the writers. Make them compete. If TNA is not your competition because they're not really on something, if Ring of Honor isn't your competition because you're just picking people from there and putting them in NXT, then there you go. Because NXT isn't getting ratings. So does it really matter? Probably not.
Has to be some kind of guy that Rock come back to bring the ratings up, and they have to promote. They have to kind of give like, oh, The Rock's going to be here on Monday, so people will tune in. That's the only thing I think that can help the ratings right now. A title change, I don't think would help. If Sheamus cashes in on Kane or Seth Rollins, I think it'd be worse. I don't want to see Sheamus as champion. I mean, God no. I think ratings will go down even more down the tube. No one wants to see Sheamus as champion.
No, not at all.
It's. I think it's just a matter. Maybe it's just the funk of football being back, and
I think one thing that you need is title changing on Raw. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's a huge deal. And you tune into Raw for a huge deal. Raw was considered the flagship for a reason. Because it was the flagship. This is where the big things happen. Now, if you know the big things are only going to happen during the monthly specials, who cares about Raw?
Yeah.
Who cares? I'm not going to watch a title change there. I'm not going to watch a big appearance necessarily there. You've got to have something like that. Title changes would be huge. Great, John Cena's doing the U.S. Open Challenge. I know he's not going to drop the U.S. title there. It's not going to happen.
And something's going to happen with him soon. It's going to be Hell in a Cell or the Monday after Hell in a Cell. Cena's going to be gone for a while filming a TV show for a couple of months. He's going to come back in December. So he has to drop the belt. And it looks like it's going to be against Ziggler. I think Ziggler and Cena might go at it at Hell in a Cell. And then Ziggler take the U.S. title, which doesn't really mean anything with Ziggler having it. But it's hard to watch, and something has to go down. But we're gonna transition to something that we will be watching on Friday.
Greg Iron.
Yes.
At AIW, Big Trouble in Little Cleveland, featuring, of course, Terry Funk. The guy is a legend. A hardcore legend, a WWE legend, an ECW legend, a Japan legend. Guy's a legend in pro wrestling. This guy's a legend. Terry Funk will be there. Tickets still on sale. AIWrestling.com. Terry Funk has said he will not leave until he has met everybody in the arena.
And he will not leave until he speaks to This Is Awesome Wrestling Show.
That's true, too.
Hopefully.
Well, we're making that up right now. It might not be true.
So, yeah, he will be in town, AIWrestling.com's website. But we want to transition to our first part of our two-part series interviews with Gregory Iron,
the AIW Intense Division champion.
The handicap hero.
That's right.
And also a man that is from the Cleveland area, and he's on the list of talented wrestlers that are from Cleveland. So here's our interview. Gregory Iron here on This Is Awesome Wrestling Show.
So come on!
And we're back here on This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. Steve Guy here with Glenn Moore. And we are joined now by the AIW Intense Division Champion, the only wrestler with cerebral palsy, the handicap hero, Greg Iron.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me.
This is not your typical, podcast sitting in the kitchen table with a tablet. And,
Yeah.
We actually have mics here in the studio.
Yeah, or Blog Talk Radio. That's everybody, right?
Yeah, we're happy to have you in the studio. One of the rare guys we get to have in the studio as opposed to talking to you in the basement of Mount Carmel.
Yeah, I'm pumped about this, man. I feel special.
So what we're gonna do here is part one would be this week, and part two would be next week. So we're gonna go the Iron Man match with Greg here. An hour.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. We're gonna go an hour, half an hour this week, half an hour next week. So Greg, we watched you here in Cleveland, and I didn't know this. Getting into the indie scene myself, always been a big WB guy and WCW guy, but I didn't know you actually from Cleveland.
Born and raised, man. Like West 50th in Cleveland, the ghetto of the West Side is where I grew up.
The heart.
I actually lived in 3 different houses on that one street.
Oh, wow.
At various times in my life, and just until about 3 years ago. I mean, that's pretty much like not that street, but that general neighborhood, man. Just roaming the ghetto, the mean streets of Cleveland, Ohio.
Well, I say that because the list is long when it comes to guys not only who made it in WWE, but great professional wrestlers here in Cleveland. I put you on the list as a guy that is very talented in the ring. You have guys in WWE. You have Ziggler, who is from Lakewood, Miz from Parma. You have Dana Brooke, who is in NXT from Seven Hills.
Yeah.
EC3, TNA champ from the East Side. Am I missing somebody?
Obviously, Johnny now being on NXT.
We'll get to Gargano.
Johnny Gargano.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about him for sure.
M-Dog 20.
Yeah.
Matt,
I feel like a lot of people really overlook Cleveland and the quality of wrestler that has come out of the city. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is a lot of garbage that comes out of Cleveland,
Sure.
but I think I think people would be more surprised if they realized just how much talent Cleveland has actually produced as far as pro wrestlers.
Yeah, Ray Rose out there right now.
Yeah.
That's another one just thought of. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a ton. It's a long list of guys who, even recently or in the past 10 years, have established themselves. Even JT Lightning, who is a guy that is well known here in Cleveland.
Sure, gave me my start.
Yeah, that has given a lot of these guys a start and given the pathway to where they're at right now.
Sure.
But yeah, I agree with you. Cleveland, I think Cleveland is a city that doesn't get the love it needs or deserves when it comes to professional wrestling.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I couldn't imagine growing up anywhere else.
There you go.
Good old Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland proud.
That's right.
You stayed. You're not leaving.
Not going anywhere.
Well, you're in AIW. We do have an AIW show coming up this weekend. And now being the Intense Division champion, does this, a lot of guys would talk about being the AIW champion, but it has its own special division. Maybe you can compare it to the Intercontinental title, but it's called a division for a reason. Does it have a bit more? What does the Intense Division mean to more so than any of the other matches, you think?
Well, I think in recent years, the Intense Championship has really developed into sort of a scramble title, like a multi-man type championship. It's definitely the secondary title. I guess if you were to compare it to something among the WWE ranks, it would be like the Intercontinental title, like the United States title. And I think, I don't know, for me, I'm proud to be the Intense champion, not just because, it's the biggest company in my hometown that I'm working for, but just the fact that I don't think I'm supposed to be the Intense champion. Like any success I ever get in AIW, I don't feel like I'm supposed to get it because I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the powers that be doesn't want Gregory Iron to succeed, but I feel like despite people that might not believe in what I do as a good guy or as a bad guy, which I usually am in AIW, like I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm 19 years old all over again. And I'm trying to prove people wrong because I've reached a point in my career, almost doing this 10 years, where it's like I feel like I still have all these doubters out there that, he's just the handicapped wrestler or he can't be a good bad guy. So then when I get the opportunity in AIW to be a bad guy, well, I want to be the best bad guy.
You're a great bad guy.
Well,
you're a great heel.
Yeah.
I take a lot of pride in that. I mean, it's because it's like I'm not supposed to be the bad guy. I'm not supposed to be the Intense champion.
Right.
Like this wasn't something that was planned months ago. Like it's things that happen because of things that I do as a character. Like I feel like in wrestling, obviously we're in a time where I guess kayfabe is dead to a certain extent, but like I feel like as wrestlers, we're sort of like magicians. You know what I mean? Like when you see like a good magic trick, it's nice to have those moments where you go, well, I know all that other magic is fake, but how did he do that? So it's so I feel like the only magic we have as wrestlers is to create those moments where we make people believe. And I'm kind of proud of the fact that people think, well, I mean, I guess I kind of am because you have to channel something inside yourself, but people think that I'm a genuine dick. You know what I mean? So I go out of my way to do that.
I mean, I'm one of the guys who have been to AIW. I've been going for years now, and of course, I'm good friends with Chris Van Vliet, who did a fantastic story on you, which he won an Emmy for. So, I mean, as much kudos goes to you in that.
Yes, that's partially mine.
He'll even say that. And I remember there were times where you were the good guy, and it's almost like then all of a sudden you got. I think it's funny because people want to cheer for you because, like you said, the handicap hero is there right there in your moniker, and everybody wants to see you do well and succeed. You're overcoming odds, and then you just take that and you're like, almost like in a very twisted way of being like, oh yes, all these people are cheering for me, and then it's like somehow the cockiness still gets you, which I think is great because it, in talking about how you don't want to be the handicap wrestler, you want to be a wrestler, that puts you at the very human level instead of somebody just looking at you like, okay, well, this is a wrestler with cerebral palsy. It's like, no, because a guy with cerebral palsy can also be a dick.
Right. And and like I said before, like when I first started wrestling at 19 years old, my main goal wasn't to share my story and to make this positive impact. Like it definitely is now. Like don't get me wrong, because you grow up and you realize certain things about what you're doing as a pro wrestler, like your responsibility and the human connection that you make.
Yeah.
But when I was 19, it was like, F you. Like you're telling me I can't be a wrestler, I'm going to do it anyways. And like, thinking about all those bullies that I encountered and people in my own family, my friends that told me it wasn't possible. It's like, I take that part of me. And every time I have this moment as a bad guy where it's like, well, how do you make the handicapped hero a bad guy? How do you make this guy who's 5'4" with cerebral palsy an actual bad guy? And so I just take everything that is good about me and I turn it on people. It's like, well, you look at me and you call me disabled, but you're fat and out of shape, or you're ugly looking, or you wear glasses, and or you're stupid. You know what I mean? Like, that's more of a disability than I'll ever have. Like, look at me, I'm in shape, I'm athletic, I'm doing more than you could ever imagine. So like, you just take this and you make people go, he's kind of being an asshole. You know, you pull things out of people that they know is true, and you bring it to the forefront. And I think that's how you create like a genuine connection as a bad guy. Because like, for example, like me, like I used to have real bad acne, okay, and I still break out sometimes. So it's like, if I had a big pimple on my face right now, and I was like, oh man, I hope I'm looking in the mirror, hope no one notices this, and then someone walks up to me and goes, oh my God, you have a big disgusting pimple on your face. In my head, I'm gonna be like, you asshole. Like, you couldn't just keep that to yourself. And I feel like as a bad guy, that's what you need to do. You need to look at something at some quality that someone has and go, you know what? I think they might be insecure about this, and I'm going to exploit it. Yeah. That's what makes a good bad guy, I think.
That and tuning up the band, wanting everybody to see some sweet chin music.
Well, like,
rake to the eye instead.
I've done that. I've done that a few different places, and so it's like that in general. Doing in that match where I won the belt, it's like I was expecting that bad guy, like, boo, because like I don't give him the super kick, and then I get a double super kick, right? Yeah. But like, I think that got one of the biggest pops of the match, and like that, the whole crowd did the exact opposite of what I wanted to do. They were cheering for me, and like there was a point when we were all down in the match, and they're going, Greg, and like in my head, I'm just like, this isn't going as planned. But like, I got to tell you guys, like, even as a bad guy, again, I'm at a point right now where like I feel like I've hit this plateau, I guess, and like I feel like I don't know, like I feel like I'm underappreciated, and I just keep getting looked at as the handicap guy. So like, after I won that match and like I got that genuine reaction from the crowd of you deserve it, like, even though that wasn't the reaction that we were intended to create, I gotta tell you, it felt good. Like, it made me feel like, you know what, even though there's these moments where I feel unjustified and I feel like I'm crazy for doing what I'm doing, like, sometimes, like, to this day, still sleeping in my car to save money on a booking and traveling hours and hours or flying hours and hours. It's like, to have a moment like that, it was like, at least they know, whether they're booing or cheering me, that like I'm working hard for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're still appreciating the character and everything that you worked so hard to create.
Sure.
It's like, yeah, okay, this guy is a bad guy.
Yeah.
We hate him.
Right.
But we appreciate why we hate him.
Right.
And it's also, yeah, you're a heel. They're supposed to hate you, but it's one of those moments to where, okay, for 5 minutes, they understand what you've gone through. They understand what you are about, to appreciate you. And then they can move on to being the asshole that you are,
Right.
After they appreciate what you've done and give you the round of applause. And they're supposed to boo you, but
yeah,
it's good they have those. And like, compare it to like NXT with Sasha Banks, who is a true heel.
Yeah.
But having some great matches and seeing what she's been doing for the women's division. Have a great match with like Bayley, and then the crowd is clapping for both of them.
Oh yeah.
They both get flowers. They can move on to being, have that moment and then move on to what they're supposed to be.
Go back to business.
But like with you, I don't feel like there's a gray area, because you can be the baby face and get sympathy for who you are.
Yeah.
And have the crowd on your side. But it's also like, there's no gray area to being a heel face. Like, you can be a total dick.
Yeah.
That we've seen you be. You have the Iron Curtain.
Curtain.
You have a faction
Yeah.
that protects you. Like,
Yeah.
that's the one thing that gets me, is like, oh, this guy is 5'4", and he has these two or three giant guys protecting him.
Just listen to every word he says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, who the hell does this guy think he is?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like, I don't want to be the cool bad guy at all. Like, I think like there's so many guys who like, they don't even know how to be a bad guy, because they're like, I want to be the cool bad guy. Like, I don't know, like I like Chris Jericho in WCW comes to mind. Like not that there was anything wrong with that. Like, I don't think he was trying to be the cool bad guy, but like I think he, in a lot of ways, he like almost set the standard for like, that's what I want to be. Like, I want to be a cool
almost
bad
like
guy.
Razor Ramon initially when he first came about, right?
Yeah, so it's like, like, especially like with my actual situation, like I have cerebral palsy, like I can't afford to be the cool bad guy. Like, if I'm going to be a bad guy, I have to go all the way. So it's like, when this Iron Curtain idea came about, and it was just like, it came about because like there were people in the crowd that like I would try to call out, and they would actually they wanted to fight me. So
There's a video. I saw a video of that.
yeah, there's a YouTube video. Like
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of viral. Like it's got like 100,000
Yeah,
views.
120. I checked today, 126,000
Like
views.
more than anything. I like even the thing with CM Punk. Like there's like quite a few videos with like me and him, and it's like I don't even know if all those add up to 100,000. It's like me and some guy that
some geek is trying to
Yeah,
pick a fight with you.
that
and
thinks wrestling is real
you
wants
got
to
Boone,
actually
you got
fight
Boone
me.
protecting him.
Right.
And everything. It's
So like
crazy.
when the Iron Curtain thing came about, it was like I started doing this open challenge thing. So I just wanted to. I was like, okay, next month is open challenge. Like what I'm going to do, and I have some buddies that are actual cops. So like I was gonna get my cop buddies to come to the ring with me, like with actual guns and everything. And then like the day of the show, like
Yeah.
the Thorne and Biggins, the promoters, they're like, well, we have like some guys for you, and like maybe like I think the Duke from AIW is the one that came up with the idea, the Iron Curtain, which I was like, oh, that's perfect. So I'm like, I come out with like these actual wrestlers. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it would have been cooler like that first
With the
time with like
cops.
actual
Yeah.
cops.
Oh, yeah.
And I was kind of like, I remember I was kind of like ticked off because I like already told my cop buddies like, hey, like come to the show, because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it'll be cool, like because these guys will try to jump the guardrail. You guys have guns and like, but like they put the kibosh on that. But like I don't know, I couldn't have asked for a better scenario, I guess, because I think the Iron Curtain has panned out to be something. I don't know, the crowd looks forward to hating on. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I think you know that you're doing a good job with it when the crowd starts to pick individuals out of the Iron Curtain that they want to see succeed beyond it. You know, like
that's
Jerry. For instance.
well, that's what happened with Dick Justice. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they're, like at first, there weren't like regular guys in the Iron Curtain. I think guys were just coming out of town for an opportunity. I think like Ben Boone's been a constant in the curtain, and I think Joey Martini was like always a constant idea. But everybody else was like those first few months was like a revolving door. It was just whoever showed up to the show, you need to bring dress clothes because you're going to be in the Iron Curtain tonight. And then Dick Justice started coming all the time. And man, I mean, I'm supposed to hate him, but I can't say enough good things about Dick Justice. I mean, he really broke out, and I could just tell right away. I'm just like, this is the guy we're gonna have to kick his ass and kick him out because he's too over. Like especially
Yeah.
like we did the thing last year when I was in a cage with Veda, and he came out and he had this idea. He walked up to me a month before the show. And he's just like, if you don't like this, like you can shut it down, but you're gonna be in a cage, so I was thinking about buying this RoboCop outfit, and he didn't even have to say anything other than that because I knew right where he was going. Capital Combat 1990, and I was
Yep.
just like, yes, we're going to do that. The only thing I don't like about that is like I feel like we pulled the trigger too early in that cage match for that. Like I feel like that could have been a bigger moment later.
Yeah.
But I remember Veda was really concerned that if that she didn't want that to be the only thing people remembered from the match.
Yeah.
So that I remember
That's a
there was
good
like
point.
there was a little debate about that. So I was just like, look, we'll do it super early and get it out of the way. But like in retrospect, I really wish we would have done that towards the end because like I mean that was like Dick's moment from like, okay, now I'm gonna beat your ass and I'm gonna
Yeah.
kick you out because you're an idiot and I'm gonna blame this all on you when it was entirely my fault that I got beat up by a girl. So that was fun.
We before the show we talked about our love for horror movies and
Yeah.
Freddy Krueger and Jason, the bad guys.
Yes.
You know, we're not supposed to like the bad guys,
Right.
And we've had Dangerous Doug Gilbert come on, and you know, a true heel from Memphis, like old school guy,
Sure.
and you know, obviously you like the heels, you like being a heel. It's fun to do that.
Yeah.
Doesn't really help with merch because
No.
nobody wants to buy your stuff.
Right. No.
But I feel like the art of being a heel is kind of going away, and we talked about this I think with Bob Holly,
Yeah.
not on the show obviously, but off to the side.
And with
And
Doug
obvi-
Gilbert, actually.
yeah, and Doug Gilbert too. Is the art of being a heel is diminishing because you gotta be PC. You can't
Yeah.
offend anybody, even though it's a show, it's entertainment.
Yeah.
These old school guys come in, and you know Doug Gilbert comes in and works the crowd, and some heels that are supposed to be the bad guys, they go out there, work their match, and leave. They don't interact with the crowd.
Yeah.
And you know, you are one of the few when you go to AIW that works with the crowd. You know, the way that I think a heel should
Sure.
interact with the crowd. I think guys are too worried about their match. Everything's planned out. They're thinking about it. To even interact with the crowd, I feel like you lose that luster with being a true heel. Is really pissing off the crowd, which is the idea. You want guys to come over the railing and try to kick your ass.
Yeah, I mean, well, like I'm a big old school wrestling fan. I mean, I grew up, you know, watching 80s and 90s wrestling, and you know, I've obviously done a lot of studying over the years and read a lot of books, and like I said earlier, I just feel like the only magic we have as wrestlers is to make people believe, even if it's for a second. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, like I don't know if I'm like I'm the handicapped hero and I'm like supposed to be the good guy, but like I think in real life, like even if I wasn't in wrestling, not a lot of things offend me. Like it's just me, it's just my
Yeah.
nature. So it's like I always get like wrapped up in like I can't understand like how people can get offended by certain things. Like I don't know, like last year I did a thing when I was feuding with Dick Justice where I stole his American flag and I took it. And after the match, I was dressed up like Dick Justice, so I was wearing like a fat suit, and I put the flag on the ground, and already that was getting heat. So I just in my mind I was like, how do I take this to the next level? I channeled my inner Shawn Michaels, and I started humping the flag.
Oh man.
And that in the moment, one of the camera guys, Wayne, I guess he was in the service or something.
Oh, boy.
And I remember like he's always nice, always kind, like always smiles.
He did not
And I
like
remember
that.
in that moment, am I allowed to swear? I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
He said all of a sudden I just hear like as I'm like playing in the crowd, I hear him go, "You son of a bitch. How could you do that to the fucking flag?" Like people died for that flag. And I remember, and I looked at him, I go, "Shut up, Wayne." And I go like, but then like my brain processed it, and I was like, "Oh, this guy doesn't talk like that. Like he's
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
mad. Like a guy who's taking pictures for the show, so in essence is part of the show, is now mad that I
Dude, you
humped
made
the
it.
American flag as if this is what I do in my personal time." You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
never go
yeah.
outside like in the middle of the street right
just
now
do
and just
that.
be like, "Hey, everybody, look at this, humping a flag." Like
Right.
that's not something I would do.
Yeah.
Like I did it because I'm a bad guy.
That's
you know
what
what I
you
mean?
want.
Right. And it's like I get like the American flag is a treasure thing, and it's like, you know,
Sure.
people died for that, right? But it's like I guess to an extent, Gregory Iron is an extension of me, but it's like I always feel like that whole notion, like, oh, I'm me with the volume turned up, is like it's kind of almost a cop out because I do things as Gregory Iron, and I think we do things as wrestlers that like we wouldn't do in everyday scenarios. I mean, it's like we find inspiration from other things. Like I don't think I would ever stalk a girl like I did Veda Scott. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
and make creepy bit strips. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I took that idea as what's the hot thing on social media right now that a delusional wrestling fan would think, you know what, I'm going to win over this girl with this. What could I do? And I found bit strips, and I was like, I'm going to make this cool. And I made it good enough to where I could sell a T-shirt out of a bit strip. You know what I mean? Like, because bit strips are the stupidest thing ever.
Yeah.
So like, I would never actually do that. I would never actually hump a flag. So it's like people need to like calm down. It's like I think people have a hard time drawing the line between fact and fiction in wrestling.
Yeah.
Like my dad is a great example. Every time I'm telling him like, oh, I just did this show, this was, oh, that fake wrestling crap. Now he used to watch it when I was a kid, right? And he
Yeah.
still watches it sometimes. I remember distinctly one time, and this is not the name drop. But one time Dolph Ziggler came to an AIW show, and after the fact, he tweeted about me. And like for me, like I mean, Dolph Ziggler is awesome, right? So like, I bragged to my dad about like, hey, this guy Dolph Ziggler from WWE like tweeted about me, and he was like, oh, who cares, fake wrestler, blah blah blah. But he knows nothing about the guy, right? I shit you not. Like 2 weeks later, we're watching a pay-per-view. Dolph Ziggler comes out. He was a bad guy at the time.
Yeah.
So my dad, who 2 weeks earlier was like, we're fake wrestling, he's watching this and sees Dolph Ziggler come out, and he's acting like an egomaniac and taunting the crowd. My dad's just watching the TV screen. He goes, this guy's a prick. I'm like, what? And he's like, he's a dickhead. He's like, is this the type of guy you want representing you? And I just had this moment where I was like, wow, you don't get it. Like you can't draw that line. So it's fake wrestling,
Yeah.
but I guess he's actually a dick, right? Like
Yeah.
like you don't understand it. Like that's the thing that blows my mind. Like all these people think they understand wrestling, but then they always have like, oh, that's fake. But when they hit you with a chair, is that fake? You know what I mean? Like they're still like it. They just turn it down and they go, oh, it's fake wrestling. But then they have 20 questions to follow.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what boggles my mind. Like they think they know, but they have no idea.
It's the movies. It's, you know, these actors, you know, Brad Pitt, George Clooney, they're not who they are in the movies.
Yeah.
So why do wrestlers get that moniker of, you know, if you're playing an asshole at a show, that you're an asshole in real life? Why does wrestling get that stigma when it's in reality it's all show. It's entertainment.
I'll never know the real answer for that. All I know is wrestling draws a different breed of individual sometimes. You know what I mean? I mean, people come from all walks of life with pro wrestling, but I mean sometimes it's just like, wow, where did you...
We don't want to rip our fan base.
I don't want to. I don't want to.
We have...
Look, I love my fans, and and you can buy all my T-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com
and you're having
/ Gregory Iron.
You got a new shirt coming out?
I do have a new shirt that you can pre-order via PayPal. You can only pre-order until October 19th, by the way. But I don't want to rip my fans, but like, they're just. I mean, look. There has to be something wrong with you as an individual to be a pro wrestler, because like only an insane person would do what we do. I mean, it's so far from fake, it's ridiculous. Like right now, my shoulder is sprained. Like that doesn't sound like much, but it's like, I did a show this weekend. I took some steel steps. I hit shoulder first, and I'm thinking like, okay, they're gonna move. I'll be fine. Oh, they didn't budge. So like I haven't been able to work out for the last 3 or 4 days. Just icing my shoulder every day.
Great way to spend your birthday too.
Right, yeah. My birthday was Monday.
Oh man,
I'm
happy
20,
belated birthday.
I'm 22 now. 22 years young.
What's that?
So it's like, I mean, there has to be something wrong with you to be a wrestler, and I guess there has to be something wrong with you to be a wrestling fan. But you know what? If you get it, great, and if you don't get it, you never will. That's the way I've always looked at it.
One of those things to where if you're a wrestling fan, you kind of looking to date a girl, you kind of hold off on the fact that you're a wrestling fan or even a wrestler. You hold off until maybe, okay, I can tell her that.
Yeah. Then there comes a point where you can be like, oh yeah, I was just reading my Wikipedia page. Oh, I didn't tell you about that. And then things get a lot easier.
Oh, I told the story on the show one other time. I was talking to a girl, and she was over at one point. She's like, oh, can I have something to drink? I was like, yeah, sure. And she went in the cupboard, and I had wrestling souvenir cups. And Mark Henry was on one. She goes, is that sexual chocolate?
Oh.
And I was like, yes, it is.
Did you propose marriage immediately?
I thought about it.
Yeah,
I was like, this could be the one right here. She was not the one, but that's okay. No. I mean, she still has high ranking in my book because of that.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
And I was like, oh, maybe we can revisit this one day. We'll see.
That's amazing.
Down the line, never know. All right, I want to talk about Johnny Gargano.
Okay.
Because obviously him in Cleveland, AIW, they go hand in hand with Johnny's name.
Sure.
And obviously being AIW and him being the head, we'll call him a trainer, head instructor at the AIW school. And we see him on NXT. We see him, for the tapings. Obviously here in Cleveland for AIW, all over the world. He's done it. Obviously he deserves a WWE run, definitely.
Yeah.
But he's a guy that, back in 2007, remember the first PWO?
Yeah, Pro Wrestling Ohio.
You got a victory over Gargano.
Upset victory.
Yeah. So you have a long history with Johnny.
We do. He actually was, I started training with JT Lightning, but he was at that point where he was really overtraining people, and Johnny was way far ahead for a kid who was wrestling for 2 years at that point. Looking back, though, he wasn't at the point where he should have been training other people. But regardless, JT put him in charge of the school. So it's like I learned the basics from JT, and then I kind of learned everything together with Johnny. And so it's like we trained together, and then over the course of like the next couple of years, for some reason, we became really good friends. And Johnny is... he's a very talkative guy when he's on the radio or on a TV show, and like very charismatic. But like in real life,
it's just nothing.
Yeah, it's like people think like he's weird and stuff, and it's like I would have thought he was weird too had he not became my friend, because then I got to know the real Johnny, who's like an awesome guy, a funny dude. Like we have so many things in common, and we had this bond that grew really strong to the point where I credit him a lot for not only my success as a wrestler, like, and the things I've learned in the ring, but like weightlifting. You know what I mean? Like I'd start lifting weights when I was 16, but it was like an off and on thing. And he was that guy who like gave me that competitive edge, I guess, where it was like, like anything you can do, I can do better. So it's like when I would show up to wrestling training, it's like, oh, Johnny knows this new move, so I got to think of something new too.
Yeah.
And like, oh, Johnny's working hard in the gym, and maybe I have to work a little bit harder too. So like we started working out together, and that transitioned into living together. Like I actually lived upstairs from the Garganos for 7 years, starting at like I think the end of 2008. So it's like, on TV we were the worst of enemies, but in real life we were the best of friends, and I think that really helped us have a better storyline. I mean, I beat him in that first match on PWO, and then that developed into him that eating away at his soul, which in real life, had I done something to one up Johnny Gargano, it would really be eating away at his soul. So it wasn't that far from the truth, and it boiled over to the point where I kept bringing it up, and he ended up beating the crap out of me in front of 200 people right here in Lakewood, Ohio, and at the Masonic Temple, and we came up with this idea. I think we saw maybe Awesome Kong do something like this to some chick. Maybe it was in Shimmer or something. I can't remember. We saw something where she just took this girl by the waist and just rammed her into the barricade, and so like we looked at that and said, like, I'm tiny, like, what if you did that like repeatedly, like over and over again in like two corners of the barricade? And he was like, oh, okay, well, we could try it. So he bloodied me up, and then he like rammed me in these barricades, and it's like, it's got a lot of hits on YouTube. And when we did it in the moment, like people thought it was real. I mean, it got so bad that once I got finally taken to the back, I wasn't going to show my face the rest of the night. The intermission wasn't supposed to happen right there. People started walking out because they were waiting for an ambulance to show up, and they were like asking if I was okay, and we had to take an impromptu intermission just because people bought into it so much. Because I mean, the whole locker room cleared out. Josh Prohibition and EC3 was on the show at the time, so like they got into like what looked to be an impromptu brawl over this handicapped kid getting beat up in a situation where Johnny Gargano went too far, and it was just like this very realistic storyline that culminated a few months later in a last man standing match, which I can't even watch now because like we were so green back then. Like, I mean, we could do so much better now. We at the time we were like, oh, this is amazing. And I remember afterwards, like, I don't even know if I've ever said this publicly, like, because I wrestled him in the same building, the Nautica Pavilion that I almost died in the year earlier. I mean, that was what the story was based off of. It was based off a real life situation where I got a concussion with brain bleeding. For like, not intentionally, I don't think, but by Ray Rowe and Michael Tarver at the time.
We want to definitely talk about that.
Okay, so like it was based off of that, and then so I don't know, it was weird wrestling in the same building, and I remember just afterwards, like I said, I was living with Johnny. His family had done so much for me, and they still do a lot for me, and I just remember afterwards, like, Johnny's such a he's one of those dudes that is never very outward with his emotions. So like, even though we're like real close friends, he's never once, guys, said that he loves me. Okay, and and I know that it's true, but he will never say that.
What a son of a bitch.
He's a son of a bitch. So, but I remember thinking to myself after that match, because I was just like, I could feel that lump in my throat, because I remember like I felt like we had a good match and I didn't die. Like that was a good feeling. And I got a standing ovation, which again, looking back, I don't know if I deserved that because the match wasn't good, but like we got a standing ovation. So for a kid who a couple years earlier didn't even think he could be a wrestler, to stand in front of 1,000 people, have a cool match with his best bud, and get a standing ovation, like that was overwhelming for me. So like I remember after, I was like, if there's ever a moment for me to say something to Johnny and him know that I mean it, it's right now. So covered in blood, I walk up to him and I just start crying like a little girl. And I just want to thank you for everything you've ever done for me and your family. And I remember I hug him and he goes, "It's okay, buddy." I'll never forget that. It's okay, buddy.
Johnny's go-to is buddy.
Yeah, buddy. It's okay, buddy. And I just remember thinking like, I don't know if I'll ever make enough money to pay him back financially, but I just look back at that moment and say to myself, like, if there was ever a time to make him realize that, like, I appreciate everything you've done for me, it was that day. So
It's okay, buddy.
It's okay, buddy.
Now, from a good feel-good story to the incident you just mentioned a couple minutes ago.
Yeah.
Michael Travar with him and Rowe. I know there's not like a feud, but there's been some back and forth about this incident and what has happened. But
yeah.
We watched. I think Steve and I watched the video where Benjamin Boone is explaining that he was at your side and took you to the hospital with you, and everything that happened that night. But take us through what from your mouth of what transpired and how you feel about it today.
Well, at that point, I was just under a year in the business, okay? So I was just happy to be on a show that was going to be in front of a few hundred fans down at I guess at the time, it's the Nautica now. Is it the Nautica
Now it's
Pavilion?
Jacobs
Pavilion?
at Nautica.
Okay, like every year the name of the building changed when we were
It's
there.
like
so
everything
it's
in Cleveland.
Yeah, so I can't keep up with it. So at the time, it was the Plain Dealer Pavilion. And so we were wrestling on this super card with like Tommy Rich and Jimmy Snuka and Nigel McGuinness and M-Dog and the Motor City Machine Guns. Like, it was the most random assortment of names possible. So I was just happy to be on the show. So I was in a pre-show battle royal. And, I remember showing up to the show that day. I remember putting my bags in a corner of the locker room with a guy by the name of Matt Justice. I remember warming up. I remember standing in line waiting to go out for the battle royal because it was like a Royal Rumble style Russian roulette, go out every 1 minute or whatever it was. I remember doing push-ups before I go out through the curtain. I remember pouring water on my head, and then I go through the curtain, and then it's just blank. Next thing I remember was waking up in a hospital bed with an IV in my arm, wondering how am I here? Why am I here? And Ben was there with me at that moment, and he must have told me 100 times at that point, but he told me for the first time that it sank in, said, well, you took a bunch of suplexes from Ray Rowe and Tyrone, who's Michael Tarver, and you have a concussion. So watching it after the fact, what happened was there was multiple guys in the ring. I don't know why it happened. The only thing I found out after the fact was JT Lightning told the guys in the match, because he was promoting the show, to look strong, I guess, because I guess Ray was supposed to win. I don't even remember if Ray won. Ray might have won, but they went out there and Michael Tarver just grabbed me for a German suplex and dumped me on my head. And I'd never taken a suplex like that in my life, and he's a big guy, and he was a kind of a reckless guy. I mean, that wasn't the first time that he'd actually hurt me. We had been in a battle royal a few months earlier, and he had me up against the ropes, and it was on Cleveland All Pro Wrestling TV. So if he would ever want to dispute this, there is footage of this in existence as well. He was giving me cross faces in the ropes, and he hit my nose really hard, and I started bleeding in the match. But he gives me a German suplex, and again, I don't remember any of this. So then I ended up taking a dragon suplex from Ray Rowe, which again, I've never even taken a German, so I guarantee I never take a dragon suplex at that point. So I take a dragon, and then I think I take a fall-away slam from a guy named Canadian Bad Boy, and I don't know what it was, but it must have been just my instincts because of the battle royal, because you have to go over the top rope. Somebody threw me through the second and third rope. So for whatever reason, I felt compelled to go back in the ring. Hey, I'm still in this match technically. So, the lights were on, but no one was home. I go back to the ring, and I somehow had the awesome idea to go back up to Ray Rowe and start hitting him. Okay, so he grabs me, and he kicks me, and he gives me the biggest power bomb possible. I've only seen the hard camera footage once, and I don't know where it is because I don't have it. But when I took the power bomb, he drove me down so hard that my head hit the mat, and my arms and legs it was almost like a dog on his back. And I tried to pick my head up off the mat, and I couldn't. It was almost as if, obviously I wasn't, but in that moment watching it was as if I was paralyzed.
Yeah.
I was trying to get up, but I couldn't. And then Ray just kind of scoops me up and just manhandles me over the top rope. And I get to the back, and I'm getting water poured on me, and I'm saying I'm sleepy to everybody. I just want to go to sleep. And Ben Boone, to his credit, was with me the whole time, and I just kept repeating myself. I guess, I didn't say hi to the Motor City Machine Guns because I got there late or something. So I guess I walked by them 100 times, just saying, "Hey guys, how you doing? Nice to meet you. I'm Greg." 100 times, and nobody was catching on that there was something wrong with me, and I was uncharacteristically messing up Johnny's hair for some reason. Every time I walked by him, I would just ruffle up his hair, and I got to the point where a guy by the name of Cronus looked at Ben and said, "I think you need to take him to the hospital," because my eyes were glazed over, and so I get to the hospital. I guess I have a seizure. I as soon as I get there, they end up calling my parents, my dad. That was at that time I was moving right into Johnny's house, so my brain was scrambled, so I couldn't remember where I was living. I was living with my buddy Ron at the time and his parents, so I couldn't remember where I lived. My buddy Ron and his parents come to the hospital. My dad comes to the hospital. Johnny and his parents come to the hospital. So I have all these people surrounding me in the hospital as if it's the last moments of my life. And I'm like really weirded out by this. And I remember I was just crying randomly. Not that I'm not an emotional guy, as we know from the story I just shared about Johnny.
Do you like to feel like they were all arguing over who gets to make the decision of what happens to you?
Yes. I guess I started crying like on and off because like I guess that's one of the symptoms when you're really badly concussed. You could just start like crying randomly. And the only thing I really remember is the doctor looking at my dad and saying it doesn't look good. He's got bleeding from the brain. And I remember just like passing out like right after that because I'm just like, oh, I don't know anything about concussions or head injuries, but I'm pretty sure that's bad. So I got rushed to another hospital. I think it might have been the Cleveland Clinic because they work better with concussions, and my brain stopped bleeding. And I guess if it wouldn't have, they would have had to cut open my head and sponge my brain. And if I wouldn't have got taken to the hospital that night, from what I'm told, there's a good chance I would have just went to sleep and died.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was this very scary, surreal situation that I wouldn't wish upon anybody. It's crazy.
All right, so we're gonna end part 1 here, and I want to
cliffhanger.
Yeah,
this is why Ben Boone's part of the Iron Curtain.
And we're gonna talk about part 2. I want to get your reaction to, because I know Michael has defended what he's done numerous times, so we want to talk about that in part 2. Also, we're gonna talk about the famous incident, maybe your most defining moment in your wrestling career is when CM Punk came out and gave you just a glowing. Just comments about you in the ring. We'll talk about that. I also want to talk about your influences, professional wrestling, how your grandmother is your what you dedicate your wrestling career to. I'll talk about that as well, and we'll talk about AIW and a lot more for part 2. So stick around next week, part 2 with Gregory Iron here. This is awesome.
This is the end of everything that I've done. No way of knowing if I'll ever be home. I don't ever wanna be alone.
Part 1, Gregory Iron here on This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. Make sure to come back next week for part 2. And make sure to go back in iTunes or the podcast store. Listen to our interviews with Blue Pants and Tessa Blanchard. So we're giving you, 3 shows this week due to scheduling conflicts with our previous show being posted out of our hands. We'll go heel. We'll go heel on him. We'll go heel on Ryan.
Yeah.
Get the shows up, dude.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so 3 shows this week. Next week, part 2 of Blue Pants and part 2 of Gregory Iron. And if we get Terry Funk, which we hope we will, I think we will we post that one as well. So we're giving you a lot of shows this month of October. Call this TIA Awesome. This is Awesome Wrestling Show Month. Fan Appreciation, Listener Appreciation Month.
Yeah.
Giving you some extra shows to listen to.
Justin Summers Appreciation Month.
There you go. And if you like the show, make sure to tweet at us at TIA Wrestling. Follow us on Twitter. And let us know how you feel about the show. If you like it, you hate it, whatever. Let us know. We appreciate it. Want to go heel on us? We'll welcome it. We'll respond, though. We're going to give you hell back, but let us know. Steve, anything you want to add to wrestling this week? We got AIW on Friday. We'll be there. Say hello if you see us. But with Raw or Hell in the Cell, anything else you want to say?
Not really. I wish Raw had me more exciting.
Dude, imagine if you didn't have Greg on this week. We would be like, 10-minute show.
What should we talk
See you
about?
later.
Yeah, definitely. After listening to the interview with Greg, that should make you definitely want to go watch him, see him in action. He is a lot of fun to watch, and you will be completely impressed. But you'll be impressed with the entire AIW roster, I think. A lot of people coming back for this. The full-blooded Italians are going to be there.
Yeah.
Original lineup of Tracy Smothers and Lil Guido teaming up together. A.k.a. Nunzio, you might remember him as.
Free pizza.
Free pizza. Yeah. So, that's worth checking out in itself. Plus Terry Funk, like we said. Ray Rowe will be there. So many just talented people going to be on that. You never know. I say this all the time. You never know who you're going to watch on that show that you may eventually see. If you were there at AIW all summer long, you saw Jasmine, who is now working her way up to NXT. Athena is now officially been added to the NXT roster, and we watched her at AIW. Johnny Gargano appears on NXT programming. You've got to go check it out.
Yeah, you have Veda Scott for Ring of Honor. Crazy Mary Dobson's been on NXT. She actually main evented a NXT show. So make sure to check out AIW. And also, you got to check out AIWrestling.com for tickets and for merch from there as well. So Terry Funk in town here on Friday. I'm going to watch him wrestle Jerry the King Lawler.
You might know him from Roadhouse.
Yes, you might.
Got his ass kicked by Patrick Swayze.
So if we get a chance to talk to him, we will definitely chat with Terry Funk about that. All right, Steve. We'll talk about Hell in the Cell more next week. Enjoy the show, guys, and enjoy the extra shows we're giving you these last couple of weeks, and in the next couple of weeks as well. Blue Pants, Tessa Blanchard. You have Gregory Iron in this one, and next week, Blue Pants and Gregory Iron. And if you're a first-time listener, follow us on Twitter. Give the old subscribe button on iTunes. Leave a rating if you like the show as well. And we'll preview Hell in a Cell next week. We'll talk about Raw. We'll maybe talk about SmackDown, maybe, if it's relevant. They were here in Ohio, Cincinnati, last night.
You were there.
Yeah, it was a good show. Am I going to watch it? Probably not, but it's cool.
Well, you watched it already.
Zack Ryder's on the show. Zack Ryder doesn't make a SmackDown appearance.
Oh, I will watch it then.
He was squashed, though, by Mr. Owens, but spoiler alert.
But I'll still watch it.
Sorry. Yeah.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Love Zack Ryder.
You know it.
One of our faves. All right, we'll talk to you guys next week. Like I said, Leva Bates, a.k.a. Blue Pants, Part 2 will be next week, and also Part 2, Gregory Iron. So a lot of stuff coming your way. Make sure to follow us on Twitter this Friday for Terry Funk. Look for photos. Look for some tweets from there. We might even have Frankie Flynn jump in with Terry Funk.
Woo!
Maybe not.
Why not?
No.
It's always good when Frankie Flynn gets to sit down
Not
with
with Terry Funk. That's like putting some fresh cheese with some nasty ass funky cheese. It doesn't mix, buddy.
All right. I'm trying to figure out who the funky cheese was. Terry, because his name is Terry Funk.
Yeah, and Frankie's new.
Oh, okay, fresh cheese.
Older the cheese, the better, right?
Yeah, but I thought you were saying Frankie stinks, so I was very confused.
He's all right. I'm coming around on Frankie Flynn.
There you go. Woo!
Okay, now I'm back to that.
Oh.
That reaction. All right, we'll talk to you guys next week. This is Awesome Wrestling.